I regret this a lot.
Oh, we're still holding W.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have pulse, which is why I used it, but yeah.
Really? You used it because you had pulse.
It was, and we didn't even get pulse up. But yeah, I think start with the Zarya gameplay because I definitely do favor Zarya. I watch a lot of Hardblue, and I think I've learned a lot from him in terms of like aggression and when to push the advantage. I think my bubbles are really good. I know in a lot of your coaching sessions you ask kind of what people think they're good at.
Yep.
And not I think that my bubbles are pretty good. I like to think my gravs are good. This VOD notwithstanding.
So what do you think you're bad at then?
And I'm definitely bad at positioning and knowing what fights to take. So I find myself, I think I'm dying needlessly a lot by chasing fights that are like 1v6. And I don't think I'm enabling my team enough. So I think that I've watched a lot of your videos. I watched a lot of CarQ. And then in terms of gameplay, I watched like a lot of Hardblue and Super. And I like to think that I'm really good and that I can be a hard carry. And I've got this like somewhat toxic mindset of like, oh, well, that was a crazy loss. Must have been my team because I know I played really well. So I want you guys to tear me apart. Let me know. Listen, man, you could have done a lot better. Because I think that, listen, if I was Hardblue in one of my games, I'd be winning 99% of them, right? So clearly, they're like I could be doing better.
I mean, wasn't Yeatle losing in gold the other day on his unranked GM or something like that? I mean, nobody has a 100% win rate.
Yeah. Fair enough.
It's one of those things where it's like, you know, there. No matter how good you are, there are going to be some games that are unwinnable. That's just the way of it. Like, you know,
fair enough.
Would it be reasonable to assume that people have like 80 or 90% win rates if they're playing in gold when they're a top 500 player? Sure. Have people managed to do a 100% win rate to GM? Yeah, I think that Forgiving is the guy who's done it in 4.5 hours on Reaper. He literally went 100% win streak all the way to Grandmaster. Could he replicate that? No. And it's like, that's going to 4K. That's not going to 4.1 or 4.2. Yeah. And it's like even Hardblue playing, you know, it's like sometimes periodically you have top 500 players or players who have been like top 100 in the game. Sometimes a bad luck streak happens and they fall into Masters. It happens. So
fair enough. I do definitely are. ML7 got stomped in gold. That was a little hard to watch,
right? I mean, I remember back when I was playing with my sister who had just started playing Overwatch, and I was playing with her in gold. And this was back when I was like actually playing DPS pretty consistently. And there was a best of 5 Koth game that I had 128 eliminations on Soldier, and I lost. I lost the game. I was just dumbfounded because I was just murdering everyone.
How could this happen?
Yeah, 128 elimination game on Control, and we lost it. It was absurd.
Ouch.
Yeah, it went to all 5 rounds back when that actually was a thing on Control, but
I didn't know the digits went that high.
Yeah, it's up there. So yeah, 128. It was like, yeah, that was one of the most flabbergasted games I've ever played. What's the most ridiculous game? Because other than that, I think the game that I had a 9-8 Eichenwald game during Season 3 and Quad Tank meta when Anna just came out. What is the most ridiculous game you've ever played, Lou?
I mean, ridiculous long?
Or just ridiculous in any way? 10-round Volskaya? I've never been to double-digit rounds.
But yeah, I'm just trying to think of like ridiculousness. I mean, the most ridiculousness happens in scrims.
Yes.
I remember playing on a team and our team captain was 100% sure. This was back before, not before role lock, but before like hero lock. So you could play multiple of the same hero. And he was 100% sold on 6 Winstons being the answer to everything. So we played a King's Row game. I mean, we got like 1 or 2 kills and then we were just 6 Winstons. So like...
Oh man, God, I miss open queue. I am masters in open queue, but I feel like my cat could get masters in open queue if I put it on the keyboard, so it doesn't really count.
Oh, okay, stretch. All right, well, let's take a look at your VOD here. Now, what's your goal for Overwatch? Because you said you're streaming right now on your own Twitch channel.
Yep, just totally for fun. I like to think that my content is fun to watch and not educational to watch. I'm certainly no pro player. But it's really, I just stream as a hobby. I think it's kind of fun to do. I got a new graphics card and I thought, hey, why not? My goal, I would love to feel like I truly belong in Plat and to challenge myself to get into Diamond, as opposed to being on the border of Gold and Plat and then getting into Plat and then immediately losing, you know? Like I want to feel like I belong in Plat. I want to set realistic goals, you know? I'm not gunning for Grandmaster or anything like that, but I would like to turn into the Plat carry that I like to think I am.
You want to play like Hardblue, make it a Plat. I like it. Very. Makes sense to me. All right, well, let's take a look.
Yeah, the good news is Zarya is absolutely a heavy carry potential hero.
Yep, potentially.
I find my games are often I have like 68 gold medals and we win with Stomp, or the whole team is not coordinated, something's going on, we get absolutely rolled and there's no in between.
And stuff like that can happen when you are very comfortable in one playstyle, but then you find yourself either your team going off script or the opposing team not playing to the script. Wyatt, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. Appreciate it, friend. But yeah, so it's like it's if especially because at the higher ranks when Harblue plays Zarya, for example, he's usually going to play it in a composition that makes sense in people who know how to play with a Zarya in how to play that specific composition. In Platinum, which you're in right now, around 2600 SR, you're not necessarily going to have people who are intentionally playing in a way that enable you as Zarya. So this can kind of that like whenever somebody tells me that I either stomp or get rolled, that usually tells me that they have one strong playstyle and then they don't know how to play when the game goes off script. So
and that's what you'll see in the second VOD if we get to the second VOD is how uncomfortable I am on D.Va and flexing around a tank that I don't like. He's playing ball the whole game and not in comms. So I am just way out of my element there, and you see me get stomped there, but we might get the room, might not.
Oh my god, they're just spamming that bubble.
Yeah, good early charge.
That's something I can count on in gold. I can always get charged just bubbling off cooldown. It's great.
Yeah, we're already at 70.
That's so good.
You don't want to be exhausting your ammunition. I'm just going to get this point out of the way because I talk about it in every single Zarya VOD. You can right-click at one ammunition for free, and it does its full damage. Right. So if you're left-clicking, which is going to be the best damage for single targets, shields, things like that, but you can always get a free right-click at one ammunition, even though right-click normally takes 25 ammo.
I've also been practicing my right-click melees after watching a VOD of yours. It is life-changing.
Right-click.
Right.
The good thing is that you're not reloading. Yeah, there's a right-click in there.
You'll see me right-clicking a lot more. I don't know why it's not here.
I mean, this is a lot of damage so far. You're almost at Grav in 40 seconds.
Yeah. This right now is Zarya on easy mode. You got free energy. You didn't need to create space yourself. Your Rein and your Genji took a lot of the aggro, which led to easier ally bubbles, which led to easier target focus from your end.
And
so this is like
D.Va.
this is a Zarya unleashed. Nice counter on the hook. What we're gonna look for is when your team isn't this coordinated, when it's much harder to break through space, and when it's harder to get charged, that kind of thing. Harder for you to find individual value, what you can be doing differently. Yeah, that first fight was just a steamroll because it was a team diff.
By the way, the only person in comms right now is my Zen, and he's calming everything but who has Discord.
Yeah, they're getting rolled.
Yeah, our attack is brutal, and then their attack is also brutal.
Okay. I kind of want to say that grab was a little ambitious. It took a Genji Blade to follow it up properly. So the reason I say that is because we were already pushing through their window play. So there was already a play we were countering, and then we tried to push even further to follow up a grab. And I think that's what split our backline up a little bit there and caused us to trade some kills. Where typically, when you're using resources, you're using it to either build an advantage, break through space, that kind of way, or continue an advantage. And you can't do the same with one resource. You can't do the same with one bubble rotation. You can't do the same with pushing through a window and then grabbing. It's not. You need more from yourself and from your team in order to make those plays work.
Right.
So that grab, even though it was big, it became really hard to follow up. This is just a lot of back and forth trading at this point.
This is quite the high tempo game for the elo. It is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've got a grab. Okay.
I was so worried about reflect there.
He almost got it.
Yeah, that one was good. Again, the range was a little bit easier because you weren't walking around like a sort of corner. Oh, that's unlucky.
Yeah, it was ugly.
But also you had your bubbles available to follow it up yourself and to help your Rein follow it up. Much easier to follow grab that time. The chase on the Hanzo, something we talked to our previous DPS player about, is when you are at advantage, which you very much were after that grab play, you want to leverage your resources as a team, and make sure you're able to stay stable more than anything, more than get immediate kills.
Right.
Because by staying stable, by staying alive, obviously, the kills are going to come naturally.
Yeah. And like at the end of the day, what you are playing for is time and distance. And you getting those kills immediately is going to be worth less than getting those kills later.
Yeah, as long as they're not on payload or anything, yeah. But yeah, very steamrolly so far.
There was the one point in time that it looked like you were lost. Like I think that, just from an initial hypothesis, we'll say, not anything that I'll be like, yes, this is the reason. But it does kind of like look like you almost want your team's permission to go aggressive instead of trying to figure a way where it's like you can be aggressive individually.
It's tough because my Ryan's not in voice, and I love calling bubbles. Like I've learned from Harbor, like I am very vocal in my games, and not being able to call like countdowns on bubbles and stuff is leading to this like very hesitant play style.
Yep.
The best way you can play around, let's say, an unpredictable tank is to play more reactively than proactively. And this is the opposite advice I would give anyone playing in like a team environment, but since this is ranked, sometimes you kind of just need to see what they're going to do and then react to it. You can use that to be really aggressive, like you can take flank angles around your Rhine shield, you can save your bubble until he's already swinging kind of thing, you can wait till he's in their face. But trying to be too proactive is going to lead to wasted resources and wasted attention, because sometimes people just aren't going to act the way you expect them to. Obviously, the same applies to enemies, but when you've got a team member whose playstyle you're not used to, who's not in comms, who you can't coordinate with, you need to, as the solo carry that you're trying to be, you need to be able to play around that situation. You need to take that information and use it.
And there's also a situation where, I mean, we see it often in pretty low-ranked players who do, like you said that you've learned a lot and you've watched other people play, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty common for individuals like that to try and replicate basically what they're seeing at higher level play. And you can kind of like try and go in with a specific plan. Like, you know, I'm going to start this fight with these set of bubbles, and that, like, you know, the thing that you're trying to replicate is the scenario where, you know, you have teammates who communicate or teammates who act a specific way, and you're trying to replicate that, and like the requirements for you in order to actually do that just aren't present. Or there's a specific thing where it's like, you know, of all of the different play styles and things that you're trying to figure out like what you should be doing out of like, you know, the like the list of plays. You have this book, it's like list of things that are good to do. And you can't find anything on that list. So whether it's you're trying to plan something too far in advance or trying to find a plan, you don't always need a plan. And that's going to be weird coming from me, but let me try and put a caveat on this situation, is that you can have a plan that is in the form of like a decision tree instead of like a specific trying to make things follow a script. Because Overwatch is not a script. You know, any competitive anything is not going to be a script. It's like, you know, when you get higher and higher as you go towards like pro play, there is going to be more or less like you call it like by the book or like book plays. And you can have like, Tikatee, do you remember a situation in pro where there was like a defined meta and somebody won just by doing something new, not because it was good, and the opponent just like didn't know how to react to it? What was a good example?
Well, there was the Pharah triple DPS into Goats when Goats was long standing.
Yeah, that's a great example. So like you have this Goats meta that's really, really, really powerful, and it's like there are being so many iterations on Goats where it's like we're gonna play Goats differently. We're gonna use these cooldowns slightly differently. We're gonna be positioning our Zarya slightly differently. We're gonna be doing all these like super, super, super minor adjustments. And this is what this team is working on. They've worked all week on trying to make sure that, you know, their bubbles are well timed, or their discords are on here instead of there, or they're trancing in this very slightly different way. And that's what they spent all week on, and that's all their brains are full of. And then they run into like triple DPS, and then they're like, "What?" Right? You know,
now off script.
They've gone in with a plan, they've gone in with a script, and then they're kind of like paralyzed. Like they're like, "Oh, what do I do?" Sort of thing. So you want to be careful about trying to follow a script too closely. And you can have a good default is you kind of like want to be putting in your position where you can either force errors or capitalize on unforced errors. Where if you are in a position where you're being aggressive enough to pressure the opponent, you can see and look for opportunities where somebody becomes killable, or put yourself in a position where if they go after one of your teammates, you can help them. And your plan can be less about trying to have a very specific outcome that you're forcing, like Grav Dragons, for example. Lower elo teams, when they plan out a Grav Dragon, will go into the fight and look to Grav and Dragon immediately, first thing, and that's what they want to do. Whereas higher ranked teams, if they're looking for a Grav Dragon, they will go in, they will try and play in the neutral, trying to look for the opportunity to Grav Dragon. But if they can find a way to win without using the Grav Dragon, they will win without using Grav Dragon. If something goes wrong in the neutral and there's a situation where Grav Dragon won't win the fight, they won't do that. But lower elo people come up with a plan and stick to a plan regardless of whether it makes sense. And you can also find a very similar thing with people who do a lot of like research and book learning, is that they have all of these plans, they have all of these scripts, but none of them apply to the situation that they find themselves in. So the way that you get out of this is, when I was making the joke about like no think, only do, think less. Just find yourself in a position where you're getting some value and you have a lot of opportunities and a lot of options. Then increase your situational awareness of what is going on now, not what you should do in the future, so that if you need to help a teammate, you help a teammate. If the opponent makes an unforced error or you see an opportunity, then you capitalize on that and you play in that sort of way until you find these situations enough and these situations become familiar enough, or you're starting to notice patterns between these situations that you're experiencing in the neutral, where you can start building your own script where your book of scripts and good plays does not currently have an index.
Right. Yeah, that's it. That's a huge thing that I would also love help with today, is like knowing where to fight and who to help. I think that I often get kind of tunnel vision on either targets or certain things that we're doing, and then my Ana's dying in the back line. But I don't know, like for example, when there's a ball or a tracer, I know a lot of the like pro players that I've seen have said, oh, like ignore that as Zarya, like your DPS should be dealing with a tracer. But then if my DPS are like, I don't want to blame my team, obviously that's kind of a toxic gold thing to do, but if my DPS are woefully unable to deal with a tracer, do I switch tanks to deal with it, or do I just trust that DPS will get it eventually? Like that's the kind of thing that I get mixed up on, and then my whole team gets rolled by a tracer and I'm thinking, what could I have done differently?
In my opinion, there's a couple different ways you can approach this. If you're looking at ranked, and you're looking at the position where you just want to win at all costs, regardless of whatever's happening, like not trying to play to your best strengths or anything like that, then yes, you can try and sort of like patch all those holes and hope your team carries you. Where you can switch to a diva or a hog. Maybe you can try and hook someone on your backline or deal with flankers that way. But if you want to play the game to actually carry the game, to be the most powerful force you can be in game, you should be identifying if you can be finding value more so than the enemy team is finding value. So that doesn't necessarily mean denying their value, but it means finding more yourself. And it's going to be very contextual. Every game's going to be different. Every set of players is going to be different. So it's going to come down to you in the moment deciding that. There's no like right or wrong answer, I would say. If you're playing Zarya and you're just not beaming anything, you're always at zero charge, maybe you should probably swap to help deal with the tracer. But if you're popping off and you're like killing 2 tanks every time that one of your supports goes down, maybe you just try and carry even harder. Maybe try and do even more. Maybe try and coordinate with everyone except your Ana and sort of, as bad as it sounds, just leave her.
Ask the Ana to die as slowly as possible and then kill as quickly as possible.
I see what you mean.
There are some metas where that's the case.
Getting kills if I'm getting 4 kills.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah, there's no right answer.
Right.
It's very contextual.
Mm-hmm. There's no simple script we can give you.
Well, the context will come up today, so
all right.
You just wait. Here it comes. I was surprised. Now that I'm in Plat for this game, this is the first game on Hollywood that I haven't been fire struck out the doors. I usually get charged. I'm pretty sure it's right here. I always bubble my Rhyme, bubble myself, and I'm instantly at 40. And I think this is the first game I've played where I didn't get fire striked. I'm waiting for it. Never comes.
You can get some stickies, though, if she fires those.
So yeah, another good example of playing off script. This was really aggressive movement for no self bubble. Good bubble rotation. Now we're giving up space. This is good. Ooh, he died through the bubble even.
Yeah.
What were you saying about right clicks, Jayne? I mean, obviously, some clutch healing there. I mean, even at that point, if you are that low, disconnecting yourself from the front line a little bit, playing more like a backline DPS member like a McCree would play in that situation,
Right.
best for your self-interest. Yeah, anytime you aren't able to have like maximum uptime, like you're waiting on bubbles, you're waiting to get healed up, you need to remember that you are a hero that thrives in longer team fights by building up and ramping up that energy.
Yeah.
So staying alive should be an utmost priority.
So one of the things, just if we are talking about positioning, right? You want to be fighting in a position where the opponent has to burn resources in order to get to you, and then in order to retreat, they have to retreat through an area where they will continue to have those resources bled out of them. So if you're going to be holding up at this first corner, right, the rest of your team can't really support you, and if you burn these bubbles here, then you have to fall back without the bubble. So one of the things that you would want to do is make sure that they have to, even this small space from this corner here to this corner here, even if it's only like, what, 6 or 7 meters or something like that, you still want the opponent to be having to be playing in that area, because that can make or break the difference. Because your turret right now is back in this angle, and if you were playing with, your second DPS is a Tracer, but if you were playing like with McCree, a Hanzo, an Ashe, or something like that, you want to be playing in areas and fighting in areas where the rest of your team can also get value out of the position that you're in. And the opponent, if they do, like if they run out of bubbles here or the shield breaks here, then they have to retreat through open territory where they're still being pressured in order to try and get safe and stabilize. Whereas like, what happens if you get caught out? You get antied here, your bubbles get broken, your Reinhardt shield break here. You have to retreat through open area where you could be under a lot of threat. So it's like positioning in a place where you don't always have to be toe-to-toe with the opponent, because defenders pick where to fight, attackers pick when to fight. So you want to pick a position where no matter when the attackers decide to actually engage, they have to spend resources like cooldowns, health, etc., in order just for the honor and the privilege of fighting you. And then you start every fight at an advantage because of the geometry of the map. And like, this is, there's a reason that maps are structured the way they are, asymmetrical in favor of the defenders. So use that to your advantage.
I think you are, to pile on top of this, you are playing a little bit on script right now, where you're moving up, using bubbles to get charged, getting some poke in, backing up to play safe. The problem lies in what happens when they punish the fact that you're playing on script by predicting your bubbles and then punishing them when they're down, kind of thing. So yes, when there's no ults in the game, when this is like the very first fight, this is fine because you want to get early charge, you want to get some early poke in and stuff like that. But now that we're coming to like the second, third fights, their ultimates are coming online. What happens now, like if you run out of bubbles, they come around this corner with a shatter and you don't have bubble to keep his shield up or to keep Ryan's shield up, or you don't have anything to deal with a nanoed Ryan in your face kind of thing. So playing too much on script is going to get you sort of trapped and exploited in the same way that not doing anything is going to get you trapped and exploited. You're being too predictable and they're going to take advantage of that probably. Yeah, I'm guessing that's what's going to happen.
Let's see.
So yeah, we moved up, we did some bubbles, but now if a fight were happening right now, like obviously it's not, but again, we're on script, we're rotating bubbles, we're just getting constant pressure, when in reality we should be preparing for a bigger fight that's about to erupt.
And you are never going to run out of situations where you could get some value out of bubbles, right? So it's like, you don't have to use bubble to get charged. Later on in the fight when they're pushing in, like if you need to use your bubble to cover for your Reinhardt or something or whatever, then you're going to want that personal bubble. And it's like, at this point in time, you're at this situation in the fight, right, where your projected is going to be up in like 4 seconds and your personal is up, and you were already sitting at like 70 or 80 charge here.
I was at like 87.
Yeah, so it's like as soon as the fight starts, one bubble will put you to 100.
Yeah.
So it's like, you want to be bubbling for energy in order to get up to like between like, if you're less than 40, bubbling aggressively, especially if the fight's still in its neutral in order to get some energy, great. But if you're at like 60 energy, one bubble is going to put you to basically max, and you're going to need your bubbles to do more than just get energy. You need to do it in order to prevent eliminations or allow you to go aggressive enough when you do see an opportunity to secure an elimination. But there's no way here. Like, this is just super risky, because if they just coordinated and bursted your bubble, like, look at the ground that you have to travel to get back to safety. You don't have armor. You're a tank, but you don't have armor. You have to clear this, and it's like, what happens if you get slept? What happens if you get antied? What happens if the Ashe headshots you?
Shattered.
What happens if you're shattered or pinned? Like, this is This is the sort of situation where it's like we're talking about. It's like what you need to be doing is more sitting in the neutral, increasing your situational awareness, looking for these unforced errors, so that and making sure that you have as many opportunities and options available to you to capitalize on them. This is an unforced error that you're giving the opponent, and it's like at this elo, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe this is going to be punished. Maybe it's not. But in the way that we're going to be trying to teach you to play, this sort of play that you are doing right now is a play that I would be wanting to coach you to take advantage of it if you saw somebody making this mistake.
Right.
Because this is an opportunity for the opponent to eliminate you and chain that elimination into a team fight win.
If I'm not Ryan, I'm solo shattering that Zarya and we're steamrolling.
I mean, there's like 3, 4, 5, 6 different ways that you die here.
Yeah. Well, let's find one of them, Jayne.
Oh, you got nano, so none of them.
Oh my god, yeah, I forgot about that actually. Oh, this is really bad. This is really bad. I don't let go of W. I regret this a lot.
Oh, we're still holding W.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have pulse, which is why I used it, but yeah.
Really? You used it because you had pulse.
It was, and we didn't even get pulse up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that was bad.
Again, there's like 5 things I want to talk about here.
Yeah,
but
you
one
go
thing
nuts.
being,
I've been talking for a while.
Yeah.
I can get some
Number
water.
one thing,
Enjoy.
like we said, we burned those resources before the fight even started, so we didn't have them, and we've kind of forced another resource in the nano in a situation where we're not even in a position to take a fight. Right?
Yeah.
We already pushed around a corner, and now because of the nano, we're pushing around 2 more corners through a choke point, all that stuff, and it's just that much easier for them to stabilize. On top of that, like we mentioned before, the grab play on second point attack, we used resources to get aggressive. We used our bubbles, we used our nano to get aggressive, and then we grab after all of that. Means it's just like that much harder to follow up any of it. And
their spawn, no less.
Yeah. So it's like there's so much you're trying to wade through in this like swamp of enemy territory that it's very, very hard to make any of it work.
Yeah. I mean, there is nothing wrong with nothing, right? It's just like, you're on a nano jupe. I don't know if it was to try and help you go aggressive or to save your ass, but either way, like pushing that even farther, like, think about the Torb, for example. Like, what's the Torb doing? His team just like runs through the choke. Yeah, it's like frontline what? It's like you got heroes that are operating off of line of sight, and you're like, fuck you, team. I don't need your line of sight. I see ya. Peace. I'm out of here. I'm gonna go
going up with Tracer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. You got the script mailed to your door that says when I get nanoed, I go aggressive. When in reality, this was you're on a completely different set.
Yeah.
I'm mad about that because that isn't usually like me. That like getting aggressive. And you'll see actually in the second clip I get nanoed on Sigma and I know I can't do anything with it and I just kind of tank it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was ugly for sure.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, your aggression makes sense on attack where you want to keep the pressure up and you want to keep high tempo to try and finish the map as early as possible, right? But on defense, if the opponent isn't doing anything that is going to actually be a threat to you, let them waste time. Nothing wrong with nothing.
At least they had to use a few resources too.
Yeah. Whether or not they had to, they did, so.
Yeah.
High gold, baby.
Whee!
So now we're in situations where even at the very beginning of these fights, there's going to be threats of like ultimate abilities and threats of enemy positioning and stuff like that. So even though we're at like...
Sorry, what did
even
you
though
say?
we're at like... Oh, that's unlucky.
What did you say?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I said I get lost a lot here on streets you can tell my positioning is awful and I'm taking fights I shouldn't be taking. And that's bad. Like, I'm so lucky my Rhine falls here with me.
You were kind of in a position where maybe you were thinking trying to get some charge, trying to use an early bubble to get some charge, when in reality they're ready to fight right away with these ultimates coming through now and everything. So we need to be really cautious, even though we're at 0 charge, about using early bubbles. And another thing, like anytime you are self-bubbling, you should think of it almost like Reaper's Wraith or Moira's Fade, where you know where you're ending after that cooldown and you're ending in safety because you no longer have it to keep you up.
My will is unbroken.
Yeah, that was just too early. We should have waited for them to come into worse space for them as attackers instead of dropping too early. And then, again, we used our cooldowns just for charge, when we could have been using them to either slow their aggression or find some aggressive movement of our own. Again here, a little bit ahead of the team. It's awkward because the payload's pushing so much, but your team was not ready to push out by the time you were in. Ooh, nice, we get the kill.
Take those.
Good tracking. Unlucky, it's a Moira. So the grabs so far have been either over-aggressive or kind of too reactive and not really, you're not fully assessing the situation around you.
Yeah.
You're not fully assessing whether or not your team can go aggressive. You're not fully assessing which are the priority targets, like a nanoed Rhine, for example, that need to be grabbed. And it's just going to be, again, like it all falls into the theme of playing off script and not locking yourself into a single playstyle, a single position, a single use of your cooldowns. You're taking in as much information as possible and then using that information to adapt the way you take a team fight. So even this, like something where your Rhine is like really slow to walk up and stuff like that, you could be doing stuff like taking off angles, bubbling your Doomfist who's going in instead of your Rhine, and trying to make it easier for your Rhine to walk up instead of needing the communication and needing to stand right behind him. So for this team fight in particular, I would have loved to see you on like the right side on those boxes, getting an off angle, getting some right clicks in, and then you're still in bubble range for your Rhine when he walks up, but him seeing you there is going to give him more confidence and you can sort of enable his playstyle more rather than waiting on it, since you can't coordinate.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never played there in my life.
Yeah, off-angle Zarya is a little bit of a higher-level playstyle. And I only say that just because lower-level players don't think to do it. Yeah, it's like, that's completely honest. Like, most people are kind of like, bubble my Reinhardt, he's in front, then I walk in front of my Reinhardt into my bubble, but you can be controlling two different areas with Reinhardt and Zarya. You can be parallel to each other. Zaryas are like really strong on high grounds, on off angles, especially if you are at high energy, and you can get to high energy, because like, you on a high ground, the opponent's not going to want you to stay there. They're going to spam at you. You're going to be able to bubble, especially if they try and dive up. You can just bubble to fight them there. Drop if you really have to. But you can still projected bubble a Reinhardt or a Doomfist or something like that without having to be with your Reinhardt or with your Doomfist. You have quite
Unless
that,
you're like
that
across
range,
the
right?
map or something, which you should never be. But
And then if anybody is shooting at you instead of your Reinhardt, like that's pressure that's not going onto the Reinhardt shield. So you being off that angle, you're drawing resources and attention. That's also going to potentially enable your Reinhardt shield to be even more aggressive than if you were with him, because the opponent's resources are being split between you and the Reinhardt. Whereas if when you're playing together, you know, they are shooting whoever's in front, right? But they're always just shooting in the same direction, and a lot of that pressure is going to go on a Reinhardt shield.
Interesting. Okay.
to use a bit of like an extreme example, but since you were playing for with a Tracer for a little bit, like it's easier for you to walk up as the frontline Zarya when your Tracer's taking attention in the backline, right?
Right.
So it should be easier for your Rhine if you can do something not in the enemy backline maybe, but in an off angle where Rhine has to rethink his shield uses, rethink his positioning and stuff like that. Sort of spreading out their attention and spreading out their resources makes it easier to coordinate your own.
Right.
And yeah, this is mainly due to the fact that you're having trouble coordinating with your Rhine. He's not going in when you want to go in, kind of thing. So you need to sort of smooth things out a little for your team and make it easier to coordinate, just based off the way you're playing.
I mean, like, one of the things that I was visualizing in my head, I wasn't actually talking about it. Like, one of the ways that you could do this is being aggressive is like on this high ground right here. Like, if you're attacking on second point, you can be up on this high ground because you can see everybody, and you can just be right clicking them. But I mean, gravity is free. You can always drop. You can always drop off high ground. So whether it's Diva or Zarya, being on the high ground is really good because you can get, if somebody's standing like really close to the Reinhardt, you can right click somebody behind them, over top the shield. You can see where everybody is. You have a better angle of like seeing if somebody's flanking around. Yeah, so even taking like pretty extreme high grounds or flanks or things like that, in the same way that like a McCree or a Hanzo might take micro flanks, because he has the option to either combat roll back to his team or lunge back to his team. Right. As Zarya, you can be on like these little flanks where you're taking off angles where as soon as you get pushed, it's not really sustainable, so you have to bubble and back off. But that'll get you energy, and in the meantime, you'll get information, opportunities to get high energy right clicks, etc.
Yeah, it's a really interesting insight. I feel like I love the script analogy, and I feel like I definitely do think of, like, when I'm playing Zarya Rhine, I definitely do think of myself as like the Rhine's right-hand man. Glue yourself to the Rhine and get energy.
Yeah.
But
What were we saying before the doors even opened? Probably have a really strong playstyle in one situation and are uncomfortable being off script elsewhere.
And it's like it's tough because especially in lower ranks, that playstyle will work in like 75% of situations, and you can just outplay enemy front lines that way. But not every game, not every situation, not every team,
and not with teammates who aren't communicating.
Yeah.
For those stickies,
they're so patient.
I know. Where's my free charge? What's going on here?
Yeah, both you and your Rein are holding too far up here.
Like we said, it's fine to like get some early poke with bubbles, but then as soon as those are down, you'll need to give up that space in order to stabilize.
Because not only are you fighting here make sure that like their DPS and backline can support their tanks, but it means that it's harder for your look at where your Zen is.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh my god, that's so exposed. Right, so as Reinhardt, unless you're playing Rush or Brawl, where it's like you move as one into the enemy team, you need to be focusing more on like corralling them into fighting at a specific location where your DPS and backline can support you, and DPS can contribute, right? So your Ashe being up here, her job is going to be easier if instead of having the Reinhardt and Zarya positioned here, if the Reinhardt and Zarya are up here and have zero ability to protect the backline. That's going to make that Ashe's job easier. Your Junkrat is going to be wanting areas where he can spam down this corridor and getting a whole bunch of damage, or when they retreat, bounce pills off of this back wall. But it's harder when they're like in that area. So, it's like one of the ways that you can hard carry is just by being a force multiplier to your DPS, making sure that whatever they're trying to do, it's easier for them, or that they're being more effective. And that doesn't have to be directly assisting them with things like bubbles and defense matrix, but it can be indirectly affecting them by funneling the fight to take place in a specific location that is strong for your DPS, weak for the enemy DPS. Enables your supports to support you safely, and makes the opponent's supports have to play in a risky position in order to try and keep their tanks up. So just like these 6-7 meters, they might seem simple, but on Hollywood it makes all the difference.
Right. And that's one of the things that I wrote on my comment for that other VOD is just awareness of what my supports, my DPS want to be doing and how to enable them. I think definitely needs work. Like I'm often just focused on the front line as a tank and not really thinking about where my supports are to heal me and where my DPS are to do the damage.
Like, you do. You need to do that.
No, 100%. Yeah.
Since you are a member of the front line, even though we've talked about like off-angling and stuff like that, you have a very limited field of view when it comes to what's going on behind you. So making sure you're doing active checks like this is a good example. Making sure you know where your team is, where they're ready to have influence is going to determine where you should be playing. So like we said, it's all about avoiding the script, taking in that info, and using it to decide what you should be doing.
Up the elevator.
I don't know what I'm doing here.
I mean, it wasn't the worst decision in the world. Just stay up here. Stay up there! There's a right click him to death.
I mean, yeah, you could have tried to right click, but realistically, this is probably a lost fight. Anyway.
That's kind of what I figured. I didn't want to get started.
Yeah, I agree with that decision. I'd rather get the close spawn too. Now we right click him to death from up here.
Oh no!
Yeah, again, I'm lost on streets. Because I always want to be fighting. I guess it's the
right. Yeah,
problem
but you
of mine,
like
you
you have you might have 20 meters range on your left click, but your right click range is insanity.
Yeah,
it's hundreds of meters. You right click at a 45-degree angle, that shit is at the horizon. Right? And your right clicks do a crazy amount of damage. At 100 energy, they do not only do they do 95 damage, but they have knockback as well.
Right.
Like they knock people around. They're really annoying. It's incredibly strong. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like, you were on that high ground position. That was fantastic. You can catch things like rockets and stickies and protect the rest of your supports by, like, being like a mini Reinhardt. And then them trying to pressure you means that you can pressure their backline with accurate long-range right clicks. Like, the correct answer there was to stay on the high ground, looking for an opportunity. Because with you dropping, I mean, I've said it before, but gravity's free. You could have dropped at any point in time. Yeah. That's always an opportunity and an option to you. But you dropping now eliminates those options because you can't just levitate your ass back up to the high ground.
What, this isn't experimental Sigma?
I know, it's insane, right? But, yeah, so keeping your opportunities and your options available to you as much as possible is really important, because you're lost here, right? You're like, what am I doing, right? So
another thing, just sort of, sorry, Jayne, if you wanted to finish.
No, I was done.
Okay, I just wanted to say, if you look at the two team comps right now, what are you going to accomplish by matching frontline?
Oh, that's a great question to bring up, because I'm very bad at analyzing team comps and understanding what my job is and what the fights are going to look like. That's a really good point. Thanks for calling me on that, because I can't answer that question.
So yeah, exactly. Even if Ryan was with you on the ground and you're matching Ryan Zarya versus Ryan Zarya, all that is really doing is giving their DPS free space, because they are flyers. They can get high ground whenever they want, kind of thing. Whereas your team has to work for it. They have to take the elevators. They have to take time to set up there. So it's more important for you as a tank to help solidify that ground and deny it from the enemy TPS, and sort of corral them out of the sky, sort of like we talked about on first point, but instead of specific ground, out of their opportunity to take high grounds and be able to fly in the above your hit scan kind of thing, and then use that as an advantage to then take the fight to the front line. But first, your first step should be solidifying your back line and then moving forward.
Right.
Like you said, I think you're just too eager to take a fight, when realistically there's no one around you to fight.
Yeah,
It's
my
more
mindset,
likely-
my incorrect mindset is like, I am tank, must be physically in the way of cart. But you could be in the way without your body.
Yeah, exactly.
Realizing.
And don't tunnel too hard on the objective either, whether that's like a capture point or a payload. Focus on where your team is fighting for. Again, think of where your backline's positioning, think of where the enemy DPS might come from if they're playing flankers or flyers like this, and solidify that space, and then look for an excuse to take it to the payload. Don't start on the payload. Good news is, our Ryan was there to help solidify. Yeah. And yeah, now we've got a pick. Now we can take the frontline fight, because now it's much harder for them.
I'm doing everything inverted.
Yeah, you're kind of playing catch up. You're running around trying to figure out where you're supposed to be this whole time. But yeah, I think this grab was really good. I think this whole fight is looking really good. Okay, Farah didn't get too much.
Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Tragic.
You still got him.
Still though, this is a good cleanup. Really good cleanup.
I would like to, I mean, you literally said that you've just started right-click melee.
Yeah.
So it's like they are, like, it's kind of this weird sort of thing where you're like...
Oh, wait, we're losing.
Yeah, we're lost. But the right-click melees look really sloppy. They aren't kind of crisp, where especially if you're in close, it's like a flick. You flick at the ground, you right-click melee them. And you want, in order to like really maximize your lethality, you do want to be that quite crisp. You don't really want to be aiming the right clicks. The right clicks are AoE. Be at melee range, just fire it into the ground and then punch him in the face.
Wait, does it do the same damage close range splash as it does direct hit?
No, it doesn't. But in close range, it's going to be, for all practical purposes, it's going to be enough.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it's like whatever extra damage you're going to get out of the right click by actually aiming it is going to be lost from the time that you spent aiming it instead of left clicking.
Right. And from the missed melee after the fact.
That too.
This is one of those situations where I turn on a tracer because I don't know what's going on there, and then I kind of
I don't usually fight tracers unless I'm high energy. Because like that like high energy right click does a lot of damage. And you can just be like zap them, and then you can reactively right-click as they blink. Tracers don't usually like to double blink engagements. They like to have a specific tempo to their blinks in order to be evasive. So at high energy, I just like to left-click a tracer until she blinks, then just like reactively flick right-click in her general direction. And even if it doesn't kill her, it'll put her to like 1 HP and force the recall, and then she has to fuck off. But at low energy, I mean, your job at low energy is going to be getting bubbles that are going to be critical in like securing eliminations or preventing eliminations, and then you can get to high energy. So like you're going to waste so much time fighting a tracer or a flanker at low energy. It's probably not worth it. Focus on making sure that you're doing what you can. You're in a good position to make sure that your bubbles are impactful, so that you can get to high energy as quickly as possible.
You can do stuff like still stand near your backline to prevent tracer from going all in, but yeah, shouldn't be your focus fire.
Right.
All right, can we stop the snowball?
My bet is no.
You want the spoilers, or you want to watch this one play out?
And we do have a graph, but I assume we're going to be optimistic with the grav. My bet, hold on a second. My bet is that we're over optimistic with the grav, and that people die trying to follow up on it, and we bait our team into feeding. That's my bet. That's my bet on what's going to happen. Do you have a bet, Lou?
I think we should make a chat bet.
Chat, what do you think's gonna happen with this grab? Are they gonna win with it? Gonna lose with it? Start.
Yeah, it's either gonna win the entire round, it's gonna end the attack, or it's gonna be over eager again.
Start a prediction. Does this
carrier feeder grab?
Does this grab win the fight? Believers.
Oh wait, I can win points here. Hold on.
Doubters.
wait, hold on.
Wait, no, because then people will see your bet.
Oh, good point. All right.
Does this graph win the fight? Oh no, the doubters.
Okay, well, win the fight.
One person has voted like. Oh, Tikatee dropping the points.
Yeah. I put all my points. I'm a believer.
Tikatee is a believer.
I'm a believer if I tried.
They're on a wonky comp now. They don't have any defensives. Worst case is going to be like if we get shattered and we only grab one person.
Lou, I have 0 comms.
Yeah,
no
spoilers.
Reiterate.
The voting's still active. No spoilers. I don't know. I want to know what's happening with this graph until I see it.
Jayne, I'm not going to lie. I forget what happens with this graph.
I'm so excited.
There's so many doubters.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, I gave them a losing VOD on purpose, chat. You guys want to see some good gameplay? Come stop by my Twitch channel.
All right, chat. Your rules, your bets are locked. Let's see this over-optimistic grab into feed.
Don't forget, chat, I'm on a 10-win streak here.
Ooh, bubble.
Are you gonna grab him?
Nah, he's gonna die.
Oh,
yes! Thank you.
The grab. It's huge.
Yes! No,
we're still winning. That was a huge grab. It stopped their dupe from getting much value.
Oh!
It stopped their shatter from getting followed up on.
Go ahead, right click. Yeah. Ooh!
Nice. And she didn't get the beat because of that. Nice.
Fight's still going on though. We still don't know if this is a win or a loss.
This looks like a fight win, unless our ride dies. They got another shatter. That was like 3 shatters.
I even knew it was coming too. I got really good at tracking shatters. And you can see me trying to turn to like hopefully get into cover there, but he shatters too soon. I know my Ryan's not going to block it. He hasn't blocked like a single shatter this whole fight. So,
all right. So this is a tough one to call because we lost the fight, but I think it was a good grab.
But the question was, how did I phrase the question? Does the grab win the fight? That was the question.
It was a winning grab, but not a one fight because they had too many things after the grab.
All right.
It was hard. So
we're gonna have to send this to adjudication. Can we get a moderator?
The grab did get countered by their shatter, which was unfortunate. And I think we might have been able to predict that either as our Reinhardt or with bubbles. And also, we didn't snowball the advantage of the grab by taking better positioning. We kind of let them back in after the grab. So more than the grab itself, the way we played around the grab is how we lost this fight. So I might lose my points because there was still more you could have done to win that fight and secure that win.
We refunded the points.
Jayne, can we go back?
Yeah, sure.
Just to show what Lou's talking about here?
Just not memeing entirely on this fight? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Let me know when you want me to pause, Lou. Actually, let's watch this third person.
Yeah. I want to watch what happens around the grab. So already we're starting at advantage. We got a tank down. Can we just check bubble cooldowns real quick? Okay, so we use self bubble. So we, like you said, I think they have shatter here. Yeah. You're getting good at tracking shatter, so we should definitely be expecting that. What could you do in your own eyes to play this differently?
I think wait for my Ryan to be a little more in front of me, bubble him to block the shatter.
So one, you don't want to be just walking into a shield like this, especially if you know they have shatter and you don't have self bubble. Either looking to take like a flank route or play a little bit slower so your Ryan takes the brunt of it, and then get around his shield at the same time while dodging shatter. So I think you try to go through the grav, which if they know you don't have self bubble is risky. And you could have played that a little bit safer. I think we can play it and see exactly what happens.
Can we? Oh, there we go.
So you go through the graph here, but you kind of like double back, and that's what gets you shattered. I'd like to see you like, if you're gonna push through the grab there, like get right behind the Rhine shield. He can't block you and the high noon, right? So you're just getting free damage in. You know their Rhines, their multiple Rhines now, aren't going to be
so
swinging
annoying
because they're trying to block the high noon play. They're trying to block damage you're doing as well. So it just denies any value they could be getting after the fact. And now, because you backed off here, we don't have the angles to stabilize. Like your soldiers on the front line now, where I think he was also expecting you to go really hard into the back line, so he followed up with his tack visor.
Right.
So it makes it a lot harder for us to stabilize. Now we're in almost more of a neutral fight because we haven't taken any more space after the fact. And this is the point where we should be like bursting around this corner because we had such a big advantage. At the very least, fighting in this space for as long as possible and denying people like this Echo finding value. I mean, our soldiers getting a bit over aggressive here. But yeah, we didn't close that out fast enough because we didn't leverage our advantage hard enough. There were some really clutch kills back and forth, but after we've committed everything, the high noon, the grav, the shatter, the tack visor, they just have more. They've got beat, They're coming up on mines, they're coming on coal, on another shatter, that kind of thing. So we needed to win that fight faster, and we needed to commit harder in that instance.
That's going to make sure that Moira stays on a mine. And she's going to get bumped into another one, isn't she?
Into the other one before she even... Oh, no.
Oh, no. Trick of the light, I guess. Is she going to walk into it? Or no, okay. But now your Rhine's overextended and nanoed.
And now we're just staggering.
4 shatters in one fight. Amazing.
That's insane.
So yeah, the grab play was definitely good. It was a huge grab. You were working with an advantage. It was a good grab that could have been followed up on, but you individually, I think, could have been the difference maker there by just being more aggressive. You had 3 people in the grab.
And just to be pedantic, I still think you could have been a little bit more patient. There would have been nothing wrong. Like, it's like as the seconds progressed, like 3, 4, 5 seconds into the future, the grab would have been in an even better position. So you still were a little bit optimistic.
And I would have had personal.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think I used the personal cooldown there was from the ball slam. I'm pretty sure.
So yeah, all these little things. And again, it's a lot about just adapting to the moment. Not every grab you're going to want to walk through. Not every situation you are going to want to save self-bubble or use it aggressively, like differently. It's going to be very unique to each and every team fight. So we point these out. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say I really appreciate that because my like little gold brain is like, team didn't follow up on grav, team bad. So I'm
little
I'm
gold
glad
brain.
That...
I'm not sure. I don't really like it when people, you're not in gold because you're stupid. You're in gold because you're still learning. I think like the game is almost 5 years old now, right? And you have people who have been no-lifing this game, right? It's like humans are really good at learning things, but if you had no expectation of walking in here, like it's unrealistic to walk into a game and expect to be 1% of a game that some people have been playing for literally 5 years and playing seriously for 5 years.
Yeah, fair enough.
So like, you're not at gold or you're not below average because you're dumb. I wish people would stop saying that.
I thought that Pharaoh was an enemy. I don't want to talk about it.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, I've been there before.
At this point, I'm rattled. We've steamrolled twice, and now we're in double overtime. I'm like
playing poorly though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great personal block with the bubble.
Again with the
that pesky friendly Farah.
I don't know. What am I thinking?
The amount of friendly lamps that I've shot.
Oh yeah.
Gotta kill the lamp. Gotta get it.
So again, this was sort of a case of everyone just playing solidly and then finding an advantage. We could go over like ways you could have found an advantage more aggressively and more like sooner, I guess, as yourself. But overall, like this is really solid play. My worry is, of course, is when everything doesn't go according to plan, what we're doing.
Yeah.
So like in that situation, if you wanted to force an advantage, you could have like swung wider on your Rein and gotten more damage in. You could have looked for right clicks on the back line around Rein's shield to force them back even further, kind of thing.
This situation in the neutral, you do want to be providing as much constant value as possible so that they start the fight with as few resources as possible, including that Rein shield. So I don't like that you are taking cover here. You know, like a better angle would be something like this. Like if you were over here, they can't really punish you because if they try and push into you, they're exposing their backline and you could have higher uptime on your left and right clicks. But as it starts, Reinhardt is going to have pretty high shields here starting this fight. Oh, that's your Reinhardt. Where's the other Reinhardt? He's at, yeah, he started the fight almost at full shield, whereas you could have made him down to at least probably 1,800 HP on his shield before he starts it. So you're putting in a position where it's harder for you to get value, whereas like you could be on the opposite side. Here, you're away from their Echo and their Junkrat, and you can still chunk down their tanks. If they push you, they'll get punished, even if you do trade. And if your team is going aggressive, it's very easy to just blend back into your team on this front line. So even like little tiny off angles like this are very, very valuable because it removes this position here as somewhere that Rein can stabilize. Is he going to use it? Yeah. So like you setting up this crossfire means that he can't stabilize and your team can. And even worst case scenario, you have this retreat.
Right. Oh, I did have a question about breaking shield actually from one of your VODs.
Yeah.
You mentioned the right left ammo conservation method because you can left click while your right click recharges basically. But I know the max DPS is from solid left click beam, right? So when do you use either or?
So right clicks are happening if you're shooting like past a shield. If there's people grouped up, your right click can hit multiple people. So that's going to be the main time that you use it. So if you're like shelling just generically in the opponent's direction, you want to be doing the right click block, right left. But for like just
so that's not like a clever shield break tactic.
No, it's not like Ashe where it's like scope,
you
scope,
unscope,
unscope. Yeah. Ashe has one specific where it's like, is it scope? Like it's one scope shot 3 unscoped, one scope shot 3 unscoped, something like that is Ashe's highest shield break combo. It's nothing like that for Zarya.
Right. Or like the Ana when you've got an enemy sleeping, there's a combo for that too that I always forget.
Yeah. But no, so
at this point it's just shoot and nade.
Yeah, so the right click, left click stuff can be it can help you shoot, like the right clicks will knock people up, make the left clicks easier to actually track them. The multiple right clicks in order to get multiple damage, just show and bounce people around. Yeah, it's good for when there's multiple people, but if it is just
I must have misinterpreted that VOD. I thought that was like some max damage tactic or something.
No, I remember that VOD, and I did a poor job of explaining it. But for like single target on shields, you know, it's going to be just left click and then right click at one ammunition.
Gotcha, yeah. I'm mad that didn't get the Rein.
I'm mad that you got hit by the shatter.
Me too. I thought I'd be far enough into the cone that the cone wasn't wide enough to hit me up there. But the cone was wide enough to hit me up there, so that's sad.
Shatter is a fickle beat.
Because like, it must be like a millimeter too short, because it won't hit you if you're on top of the payload, and this is a really short payload.
Sag.
Very sad.
Oh, your Phar's dead.
Again, similarly to talking about ways we could have done a little bit more, I think as a general rule, for your Zarya playstyle specifically, I'd like to see you swinging around your Reinhardt. Like this, exactly like this. But then you're sort of defaulting back to him, kind of thing, where you want to be pushing that advantage that you can get by shooting around shields, by burning Rein, by forcing him back, by right-clicking backline and stuff like that, as often as possible. And oftentimes you're defaulting to use your self-bubble to sort of also peel for your Rein, where you're bubbling him and then you're bubbling yourself and walking over him, which is a good like default neutral getting charge thing to do. But when you're trying to create an advantage, you should be using your shift as like a DPS cooldown, where you're using it to warrant you being over-aggressive to then get away, or as soon as they turn on you, sort of like absorbing that, getting even higher charge and doing more damage. You're using it almost purely defensively, it seems, when you can be using it aggressively.
True. I'm basically using it as gun fodder. Like that's I feel like in my mind it's like 70% gotta hit shift so I can get stronger.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, obviously, yeah, you want to be at hard charge, but you can get a lot more from that. You can get more damage,
you
more
can do
uptime, more
that
flanking.
and something be accomplishing something else at the same time. Because any of the situations where you're getting like you're using your bubble to prevent or secure an elimination, it is not a Venn diagram. It is two overlapping circles of the situations that will get you charge.
Right.
Like if a Doomfist or like if the like situation where like think about it at the end of third point where you saved your Ana from a pulse bomb against a Tracer, right? You prevented elimination.
Yeah, kind of clean.
40 charge. Happy days. All right. So
yeah,
that's all you need. That's all you need.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we
I mean, I would have loved to submit just a huge ego VOD where I do that all the time. I've been blocking shatters with Sigma
don't worry.
shields.
People who
I
submit
do some
ego
nifty
VODs
tech.
still get torn around. So
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
So like a person who submits a win and a person who submits a loss, they're still fucking up the same way. The point, like the reason that we like losses is because we can actually illustrate
you got punished.
Why your plays and mistakes are getting punished.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like you're making those same mistakes in the wins, just the opponent is pants on head, and they're like, I'm gonna just let this Zarya abuse the hell out of me, right? And they're not punishing your mistakes, or they're making more mistakes that you're punishing more proactively. So like, you're still making the same mistakes, and we can still. It's not like your mistakes are invisible to us when you win, right?
Oh no, this guy belongs in GM.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, you should be top 500. Like, no, you'll still make those mistakes. It's just easier for us to illustrate them using visual examples, using losing VODs.
Cool.
All right. Did you have any questions, or were there any points that you wanted us to clarify?
No, I'm definitely going back over this VOD for sure.
Yep.
I didn't want to take notes just so I could fully focus, so I'm gonna go back and take notes. I think I mainly have to focus on thinking of things that I've learned while I play the games, because then I'll go back to autopilot.
No. I think that you actually want to go in the opposite direction. I think that probably on average you're thinking too much during the game.
Okay.
Right. So
yeah.
It's like,
but I mean about not defaulting to bubbling my Rhine and then jumping in front of the Rhine and bubbling myself and getting 80 charge from that. I need to start thinking about off-angling more, like I'm not going to do that automatically. I'm just going to, if I queue up right now, I'm going to autopilot.
Okay, so sure, but like don't have like this massive plan about I'm going to do here, bubble this, try and do this. Right. Just put yourself in that position and then just let it flow. Just let it flow. Like, see how things work, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to try this differently this time. Or it's like, go in there not with a game plan, but like, I'm going to be going in here, and I'm going to be looking for good bubbles. Or, it's not like I'm going to bubble my Rhine and do this and then grab. It's just like, I'm just going to be here, and I'm going to generally support your Reinhardt. And if it doesn't fit in a script, fine. That's fine. Just put yourself in situations where you are unfamiliar, accept that you don't have a script or a perfect plan, and just see what happens. But yeah.
Fair enough.
Sticking too much to a script and thinking too hard about your plans is one of the things that's hurting you. So I know that this is probably, like especially when you find somebody like this, it's very uncommon that somebody has a strategy that they approach a game like this differently than they approach life, right? So if you're the kind of person who, before they do anything, wants to have a plan or wants to know what they're doing, chaotic team fights are probably going to be very uncomfortable, not for you, just in general.
Yes, sir.
So you embrace the chaos and uncertainty. Exist within it.
Gotcha.
Learn how to handle it without being able to know everything. You are but one perspective, right? You have first-person perspective. There's 5 other perspectives on your team alone. There's third-person perspectives. I mean, there's a reason that we look at VODs at third person because it allows us to see everything. But in a game, that information is not available to you. You have to be okay living in chaos and uncertainty and with imperfect information. And sometimes that means just reacting to information as it comes at you. Plans are great. I mean, planning is the best part. Plans are,
No, but I learned this from a CarQ video. I have to do it.
Yeah. So there is a fine line. I know that the vast majority of people that I yell at, they're like, what are you trying to do? What is your intention, right? But there is a middle ground. There can be people who just like completely mindlessly just walk at the opponent without any plan, and then there's people who follow plans to a fault. There is a middle ground.
Kingston, why do you have so much intention? Stop.
Yeah, stop. You have too many intentions, right? So you are one of the rare people who is over planning and overthinking. So bring it back the other way. Allow yourself to be a little bit more instinctual in your play.
Well, hey, thank you so much, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you for the VOD.
If you don't mind if I chill on your channel, chat, feel free to come take a look anytime.
You're welcome to. So because you were streaming that from your perspective as well, right?
Indeed.
Awesome.
Well, thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Very welcome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Cheers.
Bye now.